But now, Russia rallies her armies. What do we expect? We know Ezekiel 38 off by heart almost. Son of man, set thy face against the land of Magog, Central Europe, and the prince of Rosh, Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And later on it talks of Gomer, allied to the power of Rosh, Meshech and Tubal and Magog. So put that on a map. What do we see? Here it is. Taking that verse that we looked at a few moments ago, Rosh, Meshech and Tubal. There's the Russian territory. Later on in the same chapter it speaks of this power being toward the very north, just south of the North Pole. And of course it is. And here is the rest of Europe. So almost all of Europe will be allied to Russia. That's what we're told. Not Britain, obviously. We know that from what we've already seen. So the situation's going to develop in the Russian area. Here's what Brother Thomas said in Exposition of Daniel. Listen to these words. There never has been such an age of conquest as that which will soon open upon the world. And as to the establishment of European freedom and independence, the war to be initiated is the setting in of an overwhelming inundation that will submerge them under one of the most terrible and scorching despotism that have ever wrung the heart of nations. Russia will move in and take control of Europe. There's the scene that he anticipated then. But now, brethren and sisters, look briefly over this year. Here's a few of the things that have gone through. Now, I'm going to go back over this year later on in a little bit more detail, but here's a few key points. Russian military, over 1 million. Another 2.4 million can be called up. Brings potentially about 3.5 million soldiers. Russia's biggest war games was last year, right on the borders of Europe. We'll look at this in a minute again. 100,000 troops placed, look at the date, actually September the 10th to the 22nd. And there's The Economist again speaking about that. They said, it's a World War III threat. Russian troops won't leave after the war games. Oh, Russia said it would. They pulled them out, and as they pulled the soldiers out, when they went back, the trains went back to get more, there was more soldiers on board. They pulled out the active soldiers, and it appears that they put in reservists. So the 100,000 is still there. More on that in a minute. Oh, sorry. So, Putin unleashes a massive fleet into the Baltic Oceans, and Russia prepares to attack America over the North Pole in that direction. More on that in a minute. So, Russia could cut off the internet to the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation countries in Europe. That's what they're worried about. Cutting the undersea cables. Here's the ships off Britain. And so Europe could be cut off from its help from North Atlantic Group, from America, from Britain. Will they send their soldiers into Europe where they could be attacked? And where they've got no links back to home and command back in Britain and America. There's the fear that they have. So now, NATO begins to break up. The first part of it. North Atlantic breaking away from the rest of Europe. So Europe rewrites, oh yes, in fear. In fear for the moment. And so coming back to those quotes we looked at before. There we are, we expect, don't we, these countries to be allied together, to be united together. And Putin now builds up in the areas off Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, the Baltic states, Poland here. Huge numbers which were further increased this year. Further increased this year. Now, look at this little country here for a minute. Kaliningrad. Centre your attention on there. Let's have a look at it. There's Germany. There's the Baltic Sea. There's Sweden. There's Poland. Okay, now into that area. Look at the date. Only a day or two ago. Russia has deployed nuclear-capable Iskander missiles, more than she had before. and they're going in permanently in its enclave in Kaliningrad. Now, Kaliningrad was a little territory that when Russia retreated out of Europe, Russia never left. All of Europe, there it is, became independent, didn't it? The Iron Curtain came down, but not this little tiny territory there in that blue ring. Not much bigger than Tasmania. But now, Russia has continued to retain its control on that, and now they're pumping into this huge amounts of equipment. They're putting into their missiles, and we'll have a look at some of the others in a minute, permanently placing them, and they're now 400 kilometres away. These missiles can travel 400 kilometres and can hit almost all of Europe with nuclear weapons. And there's the fear. But at the same time, what about America? Going back a little now, but Trump says NATO is obsolete. What's he getting at? He said, listen, we'll help NATO, but they've got to pay for their part too. He went over and said, we spend 7%, all of you countries have got to at least spend 2%. And they said, no way. No way. And so he said, well, we're not going to help you. Unless you pay up, we get out. And there was the scene then. And that has increased in the American movement. More on it as time goes by. This then has come into the hearts and minds of everybody in that NATO group. And so countries are terrified. Oh, Czechoslovakia, Russia-friendly president wins the re-election. People are beginning to turn the other way in their fear. Remember, Czechoslovakia is almost on the borders of Russia. So they're afraid. And so they elected a Russian-friendly president into power. Look at the date. Happening so quickly. And again, look at the date. Western intelligence services fear Vienna's in Putin's pocket. A pro-Russian party now runs the police, the diplomacy, and the army of Austria. Staggering changes. What about the other countries? Oh, well, they're getting frightened. They haven't gone a line toward Russia, but others, Sweden, is instructing its people what to do if Russia takes over. They're concern, anxiety over Russian aggression, steps to prepare to war with Russia. There we are. And here's earlier one. A similar situation. Lithuania published a manual sent out to 3 million citizens what to do when Russia takes over. They've started conscripting their people, but they're telling them how to prepare to survive. 75-page book for everybody. What to do when Russia takes over. Imagine if we got it. Everybody in their letterbox. How would you feel? And on the other side, Magog, Germany, quietly working to unite European militaries. Apparently she's got hold of about 27 crack soldiers, commanders, and sending them to all the nations in Europe and trying to instruct them as to what to do. In other words, in a way, Germany is quietly taking control. Quietly taking control with a fully fledged European military, combining the European powers together. And they're doing so because everybody's afraid. Maybe under Germany they could come together. The aim of the EU was that Germany might not dominate again. And so the situation's developing contrary to what people wanted in the long run. And the top autocrats admit the EU plans a massive power grab. So while NATO and the military is falling apart, but coming under, because of fear, Germany and other things like that, they're endeavouring to financially come together a bit more strongly because they're worried over the financial situation, which we saw this week.